Welcome to a Stuart beam engine bought online. This is part 7, making a new bronze bush for the big end of the connecting rod. I used a very sharp 1/4 inch drill bit to drill the hole in the bush after using a centre drill, and when I pressed the bush into position, the hole was a perfect fit on the crank pin. I did not even need to use a reamer for this job. I reassembled the connecting rod to the beam. After lubricating the parts, I tried a compressed air test and the engine sounded better. In this clip I have a piece of cast bronze in the chuck of my Myford ML7R, and first of all I face across the front, which is standard practice, and then I start to reduce the diameter so that the finished bush will be a very tight fit in the hole of the big end. As usual on this small Myford lathe, fine cuts are the order of the day. This is a sharp carbide tip tool and it seems to be doing quite a good job. The finish of the outer part really is good. I do realise that this piece of metal looks like brass, but it isn't. It's some sort of bronze and it should do the job admirably. I can't rush this job because I do not want to distort the part as it gets near to its finished dimension. But I must admit I'm running the video at a higher speed, just to alleviate the boredom. This is not specifically a video about machining, it's all part of a bigger job. Making the beam engine sound a little less like a pneumatic drill crossed with a machine gun. Here I'm using a twist drill to drill the hole. It's 1/4 inch in diameter and it's very sharp. Although really I should have used one size under a 1/4 inch and a reamer, but I couldn't find my reamers. I think they must be up in the other workshop. And at the time of doing this job there was heavy rain outside, and that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. I just didn't fancy getting wet walking up to the workshop and back to get the reamer. By using this very sharp twist drill, the internal finish of the part is really good. The crank pin, however, is a few thou under size, just 4/1000ths of an inch, and I would think that when I press this bush into the crank pin hole, which is steel, it should be crushed slightly and become smaller. I'll soon find out. First of all though, I do need to remove the old bush, which is well oversized. For this I'm using a screwdriver adapter for my electric drill, and it does the job perfectly. This clip shows the crank pin and the big end, and also the old bush sat on the bench. I should really have pressed this into position with a hydraulic press, but I don't have one, so I'm using a hammer. I do like a small amount of ultra-violence in my videos from time to time. After fitting the bush, which by the way does fit perfectly and is exactly the right size for the crank pin, I clean it up on a piece of wet and dry sandpaper. I'll take this opportunity to show this general area. As you can see, there are too many holes in the crank web, and also there are 2 holes in the eccentric sheave for the grub screws, but that's not a bad thing. But if you look at the crank web, you will see that it is not perfectly machined to suit where it sits on the engine. This is not my doing, I had to remachine the crank web anyway. Here I'm fitting the connecting rod fork to the beam, and you can see that it's unevenly machined and doesn't sit in the middle. I'm going to have to do something about this. I think a shim washer is in order. The problem is, of course, this engine also feels tight because of the machining quality. It will eventually, hopefully, run in. By turning the flywheel and rotating the crankshaft, I'm opening and shutting the valve, so the beam moves up and down. If you find yourself doing this, keep the pressure low. You don't want the pressure to be high, you could damage the beam or other parts of the mechanism. When I finally fitted the connecting rod fork to the beam using a shim washer on the pin, it seemed to be a lot better, and here, as you can see, it's starting to run slightly better than it did. After running the engine fast for a while, when I ran it slow, it made a bit more noise. and that I think is because of the centrifugal force causing the oil to leave the bearings. In this clip I re-lubricated the parts using steam oil, which is a bit more viscous and stays on the parts for longer. I also fitted shim washers, and here's an example of that, to the Watts parallel motion, because that was very rattly and sloppy as well. With my scriber I'm pointing at the shim washer, and as you can see it's hardly visible, but it's there and it stabilises the entire thing. I also fitted one to the rear part of the Watts parallel motion. Although this clip was taken before I fitted the shim washer, first of all I had to undo the nut. You can see how wobbly it is. And I don't think this is wear, it's just bad hole drilling. Building one of these Stuart beam engines is definitely not as simple as you would think. If you're a beginner to this hobby, build a Victoria. It uses the same cylinder and the same valve gear, but it's far easier to put together. One day I will finish the one I'm making. It's the main part of a series I made called How to Build a Model Steam Engine, but when I got to the really simple parts, I figured out that possibly most people, after turning the flywheel, making the crank web and the connecting rod, not to mention boring the cylinder, by the time you've done those jobs, the rest of the build is absolutely routine, but I will finish it one day. Time now to fit the second shim washer to the Watts parallel motion. Here it is. I have a selection of these, all of different thicknesses. After fitting the shim washers on the Watts parallel motion, the engine is even stiffer than it was before, but this will wear off as it beds in. That's the plan anyway. In between the clips that you're looking at, I really have run this engine a lot to bed everything in. In this slow motion clip you can hear how much better the engine sounds. The level of the knocking is definitely diminished. And to put it in perspective, I will speak to the camera in the workshop. And yes, the sound is definitely on because you can hear my voice. I don't think I can get it any quieter. It's an old engine with one or two minor problems down to the engineering and what have you, but it's okay. I'll leave it running for a short while without speaking, but don't switch off yet, I'll be back in a bit, because there is a live steam test at the end of this video which showed further problems. Before anyone comments, yes, I know I'm running the engine far too fast, very much faster than scale speed. I want to see whether it breaks or not. I'd rather it breaks in my workshop than when the customer gets it back in his. This is a small boiler that I've had for quite a long time. It's really good. It's ideal for a quick steam test on this small beam engine. Immediately there is a problem. There is insufficient packing in the gland of the cylinder. This is my fault. I used what I had, but it wasn't enough. This is going to be fun. I need to repack the gland, but it's very hot. When I tighten the gland cover as far as I can, it is still leaking. This is no good at all. So it's time to undo the bolts, add some more gland packing to the gland, and this time I'll be using Teflon coated yarn. The leak's not that bad, but it will get worse, so I have to do it. And the problem is now, of course, the cylinder is extremely hot. The pressure in the boiler is quite low, so the temperature is not ridiculously high, just slightly above boiling point. And luckily my pain tolerance is good, and over the years I've used my fingers on very hot things. I should put a girlfriend joke in there. No, I won't do that. I've used my fingers on very hot things, and so I'm used to the temperatures. The sides of both of my forefingers are surprisingly heat-proof, and in no time at all the bolts are removed. I can lift the gland out of the hole, and here I'm adding to the graphited yarn that I fitted some Teflon coated yarn. This should do the trick. Not too much, just the right amount. I cut off the surplus with a very sharp pair of side cutters. To ring the changes, here's what the engine sounded like when I first got it to fix. And now, after about 25 hours work, it sounds like this. Owing to the bad workmanship and wear on this engine, this job has been a bit of a pain. But I just took my medication and got on with it. You wouldn't believe how many times I had to retime the eccentric. Every time I fiddled with the engine, it started knocking, and then I would get it back to not knock, and everything's okay. So that is it, the end of this short series. I'm sure the owner of the engine will be a bit happier with it than he was when he first bought it online. It's not perfect, but I think it's near enough for rock and roll. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.